Mega Man is one of my favorite gaming franchises ever created, and I've played most of the games made for the series. In 2010, Capcom began development on a new game titled Mega Man Universe. In July of that year, an animated teaser trailer that was made in stop motion was shown off for Mega Man Universe. It was really creative, featuring Ryu from Street Fighter and King Arthur from the Ghost and Goblin series. This trailer really brought back that classic Capcom feel. The game was set to be a 3D side-scrolling action platformer and to be released on the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade for digital download. A big element of Mega Man Universe was that it would allow players to create levels and customize their own characters. Artist and producer of Mega Man, Keiji Inafune, said, quote, "We wanted to preserve as much as we can of the classic 8-bit Mega Man feel, while allowing players to project their own Mega Man onto the game." This sounds great to me, and I really like the direction they were taking with this game. The game's development team consisted of Capcom members who worked on the first 6 Mega Man games. That's always good to hear when companies have a big idea. On September 2nd of 2010, a couple of gameplay trailers were released and producers were asking for feedback from the fans. An interesting fact about the game is that it would have been the first to be called Mega Man in Japan besides the usual title of Rockman. The game was moving along, but unfortunately 4 months after the trailers were released, producer Keiji Inafune left the company. Capcom reported that even though there hasn't been any news on the game, it was not cancelled and is still in development. Mega Man Universe received strong negative feedback about unresponsive controls and the game's art direction. Despite Capcom's report that the game was still in development, it was announced on March 31st of 2011 that Mega Man Universe was cancelled due to various circumstances. During the mid-2000s, Marvel and EA became partners and planned to make some fighting games. Their first joint project was Marvel Nemesis: Rise of the Imperfects, released in 2005 on all consoles of the time, including a port to the PSP and Nintendo DS. There are 12 playable characters in the game, with each of them having a unique storyline. Marvel Nemesis also had character exclusivity depending on which console you played the game on, with Doctor Doom and Captain America being available only on PlayStation Portable. However, the Human Torch is missing from the port of the game. During story, you fight against a new set of villains called the Imperfects. Despite the game being well put together and introducing a new fighting style, it was poorly received by critics. The general consensus was that Marvel Nemesis: Rise of the Imperfects was a mediocre game and got a 5 out of 10 rating. EA looked to make another game immediately after the first one. So in 2006, they began production on a new game titled Marvel. This time around, EA and Marvel decided to bring in developers of the Fight Night series. The game would carry over the roster from Marvel Nemesis, with possibly adding a few characters. There was a trailer released for the game, but 1 year later, the partnership between Marvel and EA was no more, so all projects were cancelled. It's said that during development, the new team put too much into character designs, and Marvel had to make them change to the original characters again. Another big problem with the game was the open world level designs. The levels seemed too big and not well planned out. Crowd control was also going to be available in the game, but this took away from the main fight and was scrapped during development. In my opinion, this contributed to the bad level design. Gameplay of Marvel has been found and can be viewed online. The game didn't look the best, but you can tell it's an unfinished product. Katamari Damacy is a third-person puzzle action game that was released in March of 2004 on the PlayStation 2. The game was a great success and has spanned a few sequel titles throughout the years. One of which was an online multiplayer RPG type game titled Katamari Damacy Online. It was released in 2010 and was exclusive to players who lived in South Korea. The game featured new characters and items that had never been seen in the series. Fans enjoyed the game for 2 years before it was shut down in March of 2012. What can be seen today of Katamari Damacy online is concept art and gameplay footage. However, there is currently no way to play the game and it's considered lost. 100 Bullets is a DC comic book series that ran for a decade, from 1999 until 2009. It's about Agent Graves, who is an agent giving people a chance at revenge against the person who did them wrong, handing the person a gun with 100 bullets. Graves also gives them secret info about the person they will take revenge against. This comic series has seen great success and is critically acclaimed. One thing many people don't know is that a video game based on the comic book was almost created 2 different times. The company Acclaim began working on 100 Bullets in 2003. This game would center around Cole Burns instead of main character Agent Graves. Burns is a big character in the comic books, and also a new character named Snowfalls was created just for the game. 100 Bullets was a third-person shooter filled with a large selection of weapons and a rage meter. While killing enemies, your rage meter fills up, and when full, you can use rage to eliminate all enemies in the room. 100 Bullets was going to be available on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. The game was projected for a late 2004 release and was shown off at E3 that year. On the first day of September in 2004, Acclaim Entertainment filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and went out of business. The game is thought to have been finished and ready for release, but the company's assets were liquidated once they went bankrupt. Besides the E3 footage, nothing else was ever shown off to the public. Word of the game went quiet for years, until January of 2016, when gameplay footage was uploaded online of the Xbox build of the game. In the following years, the PlayStation 2 version and a more updated build of the Xbox version was uploaded online. This game may not be playable, but at least we can see what could have been. In May of 2006, 2 years after Acclaim failed to release the game, D3, publisher of America and Warner Bros., began to work on a new game based on the 100 Bullets comic series. This time planned for release on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Nintendo DS, and Nintendo Wii. Fans were excited again after the 2004 letdown. Unfortunately, after the initial announcement of the game, no other news or updates were given to the public. Many people just began to lose interest at this point. Brian Azzarello was one of the creators for this version of 100 Bullets. When asked about the game in 2009, he said the game was dead, but stated that he wanted to make a game based on the comic series in the future. In 2013, he spoke on the game for the last time, saying it was a little too intense to get off the ground, and that he doesn't believe it could have ever been made. When it comes to Nickelodeon cartoons, CatDog has to be one of my favorites. It's very entertaining with crazy characters and storylines, making the show a mainstay of 90s television. Just like other popular shows from the time like Rugrats and All Real Monsters, the creators wanted to make a video game based on it after it drew a wide audience. CatDog Saving Mean Bob began development in 1998 under the company Nowhere. The next year, screenshots of the game were shown off in PSX Nation and Billboard magazine. These were good for letting fans know about the game, but the most informative piece of advertisement was this one created by Nickelodeon. It shows the cover of the game and also shows some screenshots at the bottom explaining some details. One says you can play as cat or dog, with another saying, complete the levels to save Mean Bob, hinting that this is the main goal. Other than this, the plot of the game is unknown. CatDog Saving Mean Bob was set to be published by Hasbro Interactive. But in 2001, the company was sold to Infogrames, and the game was scrapped during the deal. CatDog did have a game on the PC in 1999 titled Quest for the Golden Hydrant, but the only appearance they made on the PlayStation was in Nicktoons Racing. I'm an avid PS1 collector, so I hate that this game was cancelled. Judging by screenshots of the game, it looks like it's possible that it could have been complete, but no prototype has ever been found. The Dark Knight is the sequel to Batman Begins. Released on July 18th of 2008, the film was a huge success, bringing in over $1 billion at the box office. Storylines and characters were written to perfection in The Dark Knight, and with any great hero movie usually comes a fun video game. This was confirmed by Gary Oldman, who played Jim Gordon, in an interview one day before the film's release. He stated that the game was in the works and he would be doing voiceovers, also mentioning that it took a tremendous amount of effort to get Batman's gliding looking fluid. Sources said the project began in 2007 and was being developed by Pandemic Studios and Electronic Arts. Set to be released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, the game only had a few short months of steady progress before running into problems. The first big problem is that developers were instructed to make a Batman game, only to be informed months later that it had to be a tie-in to the movie, causing most of the project to be scrapped and redone at that point. Many different engine updates only made production more confusing. An HDR lighting solution was implemented into the game and became a major issue as it crashed the development hardware. Even these plans would fall through due to the game looking awful and being nowhere near completion. Decisions were also being made behind the developer's back, so nothing was getting done right. The project was pushed back to meet the DVD release in December. After missing the December deadline, Batman the Dark Knight video game was cancelled. Pandemic Studios Brisbane shut down, and 20 employees lost their jobs that day. All we can see of the game is level designs and a short action sequence. I am a big fan of Heath Ledger's Joker, and I would have really liked to play this game because his voiceovers were to be included. The build of the game is currently lost, and because of the development studio being shut down, it may be gone forever. Toon Jam is a Cartoon Network PC game that was released in 1995. Hosted by Moxie, a character that is infamous in the lost media community, the game is a video creator. You are able to make music videos with various backgrounds while including classic characters from Cartoon Network, like Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Two Stupid Dogs, and the Jetsons. After you finish creating your video, you could then save it on a floppy disk. The game was packaged with a VHS tape titled Jammin', which featured cartoon characters dancing. I believe this game had a very limited release because even though it was once available in stores, it wasn't seen for years and was considered a lost game. Luckily, just 2 months ago, the game was found and is now available to play online. If you've ever played the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, then you've probably heard of a game called Dewey the Dolphin. You swim around the ocean on a quest to save the planet. These games are known for being very difficult. We could dive into the history of Dewey a bit more, but in this video, I'm going to talk about a different dolphin named Dewey. The Adventures of Dewey the Dolphin is a video game that started development in 1990. Set to be published by Illustrious Ocean Software, it was originally an arcade game. After discussions, developers saw this as a bad idea, and it was agreed that the game would do better on the Sega Genesis. The very first announcement of Dewey the Dolphin was in issue 13 of Electronic Gaming Monthly. The description reads, Swim through the depths of the ocean, watching out for all of the hungry fish who are looking for a tasty morsel for dinner. Meet up with Neptune, the ocean god. More changes were made in development, and the final decision was that The Adventures of Dewey the Dolphin would be released on the Nintendo Entertainment System. For unknown reasons, the game was cancelled. This may be because the Super Nintendo was released in November of 1990, and the development team may have thought it wouldn't do well because it wasn't on the new console. Although it is rumored that the reason for cancellation is because it was too similar to Echo the Dolphin, even though Echo wasn't released until 1992. The only evidence we can see of Dewey the Dolphin, besides the gaming magazine announcement, is the title card for the game, and one screenshot showing Dewey swimming up to King Neptune. This screenshot is important because it shows us that a prototype was created. I'm glad we can view this so we can see what Dewey looked like in the game, although I must say, it's very strange that King Neptune is naked. If you ever owned a Nintendo 64 and are a fan of racing games, then you've probably heard of Diddy Kong Racing. Released on November 24th in 1997, the game centers around Diddy Kong and features characters from other Rare titles. Banjo from Banjo-Kazooie and Conker from Conker's Bad Fur Day. The game was successful and connected with fans. In the year 2000, Rare began to work on a sequel to the game titled Donkey Kong Racing. The days of the Nintendo 64 were soon coming to an end, so this game was set to be released on the GameCube in 2002. The world inside the game was based in the jungle, and was planned to have unique features like fading sunlight throughout the race. An image from inside the game shows playable characters are Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Taj the Genie, Dixie Kong, Lanky Kong, Kiddy Kong, and even Cranky Kong. This is a good character select, and I'm really surprised that Cranky Kong is in the selection. In Diddy Kong Racing, you are in carts, airplanes, and motorized floats. This time around, Rare wanted to go a different direction. So in Donkey Kong Racing, you would have been riding on the back of animals like rhinos, elephants, and swordfish. The animals have different abilities such as breaking through objects and making swift movements. If you get knocked off your animal, then you have to tap buttons making you run back to them and continue the race. Collecting fruit and other items will upgrade your animal, making them more powerful. An article talks about the layout of the game, saying, quote, "It was up to you to decide where the track met amidst marauding rhinos, schools of darting piranha, swarms of agitated wasps, and other roaming wildlife bent on mischief." Another thing I find really cool is that Rare planned to make an original soundtrack for the game. The first appearance of Donkey Kong Racing was at E3 in 2001. The game looked promising and showed great potential, leaving fans wanting more, so an announcement was made that the game would be shown at Space World 2001. At this time, Rare wasn't being paid enough by Nintendo to fund projects they were working on, so production of Donkey Kong Racing came to a halt. Nintendo declined an offer to buy out Rare later that year. In my opinion, this led to the downfall of the company, but we'll get to that in a future video. The next year, Microsoft bought Rare. As a result, all current projects were cancelled, including Donkey Kong Racing. Surprisingly, when the Rare team were asked about the game's cancellation in 2004, they said it's not Donkey Kong Racing anymore, but the game that was being developed before cancellation would come out as a different title, with a few key elements switched around. This game would be called Saberman Stampede. Previously, Saberman made an appearance in Banjo-Tooie, and in 2004, you play as him in the Game Boy Advance game Saberwolf. Seeing how Saberman is a cool character and involved with Banjo, this game sounded like it could be interesting. It was set to be a 3D platformer adventure game, planned to be released on the Xbox. The development team kept adding minor details like different character colors and backgrounds of levels without focusing on the story for the game, so it really wasn't getting anywhere. This led to the game being cancelled in 2005. There's a decent amount of gameplay footage and concept art available of Saberman Stampede. Before researching for the video, I never knew much about the game, but it looks like it could have been really fun if it was done right. I enjoy playing Diddy Kong Racing, but I think Donkey Kong Racing would have been a much better game and maybe could have competed with Mario Kart. Now, we'll never know. Legacy of Kain: Dead Son is an action-adventure game that began production in 2009 under the codename Black Cloth. This would be the 6th game in the Legacy of Kain series. The game centers around a vampire named Geen and human named Asher. Their souls are fused together while traveling through Nosgoth. A main storyline in Dead Son revolved around the character of the Elder God and a mystery about a vampire child. These events take place many years after Soul Reaver. Everything seemed well thought out as the story was set to change from a quest for revenge to an adventure that would save the world. Square Enix planned to release the game on the PlayStation 3, PC, and Xbox 360. Gameplay is heavily inspired by the 1999 title, Legacy of Kain: Soul Reaver. Dead Son would feature an open world and all new violent fighting mechanics. A codex was implemented giving you a history of all worlds inside the game. After defeating opponents and bosses, you collect souls that can be exchanged for character upgrades. Developers made good use of the Unreal Engine 3, and the game was looking spectacular. Later in production, it was decided that this would be a PlayStation 4 launch title. After 3 years of development and a great looking game almost finished, Legacy of Kain: Dead Son was cancelled. Square Enix Europe said of the cancelled game, Dead Son just wasn't the right game at the time. Instead, Square kept the build from the multiplayer version and turned it into a free-to-play PC game called Nosgoth. This was the wrong decision to make, and people at the company know this. Many articles were written criticizing the company for cancelling the game and ruining the Legacy of Kain franchise. This would have definitely encouraged me to buy a PlayStation 4 on launch. If I'm ever asked of an example of wasted potential, I'm pointing at Legacy of Kain: Dead Son. Just like what happened with Dinosaur Planet, I hope someone releases a build of this game one day because I'll be the first one to play it. Have a great day, and until next time, Stay Up Late Productions.